Hello and welcome back to revise GCSE history.co.uk. This is video 2 in the topic the Plains Indians, and in this video today we're going to be looking at how the Plains Indians managed to survive on the Great Plains. So let's just recap last video. Recapping our last video. So the Plains Indians, sorry, that's really horrible, that line. So the Plains Indians, we said they are the Native Americans, and there are many different tribes, many different nations of Native Americans. For example, the Sioux Indians, and the Plains Indians lived on the Great Plains. And we said in our last video that the Great Plains had a very extreme climate. It was really cold in the winter with blizzards and really cold winds that blew, and then in the summer it was scorching hot, really dry land. Winds still blew, but they made it really hot, and there was a real scarcity of water on the plains, and there was also a lack of building materials to build with. So in this video today we're going to be looking at how the Plains Indians managed to survive with the extreme climate on the Great Plains. So the Plains Indians lived in a teepee, and teepee, you can write it like this here, or it can sometimes be written teepee or teepee. You may have called it a wigwam before when you've talked about it, but the proper word is a teepee. So the teepee was the home of each Indian family. Third time lucky. And it was made from buffalo skins sewn together and supported by a circular frame of wooden poles. So we'd put a circular frame of wooden poles up like that. You can see from the picture there's all these wooden poles that form the circular base, and then we cover it with a buffalo skin. The teepee was the responsibility of the women. They made it, owned it, put it up and took it down so it could be moved. So that's what the teepee is. It was a family home of the Plains Indians. So why is the teepee important for living on the Great Plains? Why were the teepees perfect homes for the Great Plains? Well, the teepee could be taken down and packed for transport in 10 minutes, and this made it suitable for the Plains Indians who were nomadic. If you remember back to last video, we said that the Plains Indians followed the buffalo on their migrations around the Great Plains. So they were constantly on the move. They were nomadic, they didn't settle in one place, so they were constantly moving where they lived. And the teepee was an ideal home for this, because it could be quickly taken down, quickly packed for transport in less than 10 minutes. It could be took down really quickly, and it was quite easy to transport because it was just wooden poles and buffalo skins. So this made it very suitable for the Plains Indians who were nomadic. The teepee could also be adjusted with the seasons. In summer, the teepee bottom could be rolled up to let air in, this bottom here, and in the winter it could be banked with the earth to keep the teepee warm. So it could be adjusted with the seasons to suit the climate of different seasons. And the conical shape of the teepee, the sort of round shape, no flat edges, made it very strong. So there's no sort of sides to it, is there? It's all sort of a circular shape. This meant that it could resist the strong winds that blew on the Great Plains, and because it had no flat sides it was not blown over easily. So here are 3 key reasons as to why the teepee was an ideal home for the Plains Indians who lived on the Great Plains. Another way that the Plains Indians managed to survive on the Great Plains was hunting the buffalo. So the Plains Indians were nomadic hunter-gatherers. So they weren't farmers, they didn't grow crops, they followed the buffalo on their migrations across the Great Plains. They followed the buffalo. and the buffalo provided the necessities of life. And here I've just got a list of some examples of the things that the Plains Indians used the buffalo for. So sinews, and they're quite similar. I think they're quite similar to like muscle threads. The light little threads, of buffalo tissue. They use sinews for bowstrings and thread. Not too sure, to be honest, what they are. They use buffalo fur for decoration on their clothes. Buffalo dung was burnt and used for fuel. Buffalo bones were used for jewellery, knives and tools. Buffalo skin was used for wool, clothing and making tepee. We've just said that the circular frame of a tepee was covered by buffalo skin. Buffalo hooves were used for making glue, and buffalo fat was used for cooking, making soap and as hair grease. So there are some of the things, there's loads more, that the Plains Indians used the buffalo for, and some of the reasons why they hunted them. And of course, they hunted the buffalo meat for their meat for eating. They ate buffalo meat. So, you don't need to know all of that list there, all of this bullet point list of everything they used it for. Just learn like 2 or 3 ones that you think you can remember of how the Plains Indians used the buffalo. Okay, so another way they managed to survive on the Great Plains was horses. So have a look at this then. So the horse became a very important part of Plain Indian tribes, and they were brought over to America by European invaders. Each family owned at least a few horses, and everyone learnt how to ride at a very young age. So, how did horses enable the Indians to survive on the plains? Well, there's 3 key reasons here. The horses made it easier to hunt buffalo. The Plains Indians were good at hunting on foot, but when the horse came over from Europe, it made it even easier to hunt the buffalo. The horses also made it easier to move from place to place. The Plains Indians were nomadic, and they moved around the Great Plains. They didn't settle in one particular place. They followed the buffalo, which they hunted, and the horses made it easier to move on the Great Plains and transport their belongings from place to place. And the horse, finally, also meant that the tribe could be defended more easily. So, the political organisation of the Plains Indians. This helps us to understand how the Plains Indians were able to survive on the plains. So, to survive on the Great Plains, the members of an Indian band had to cooperate and work closely together. So this helps us to understand that teamwork and cooperation helped the Plains Indians to survive on the Great Plains. Throughout the year, the band would move across the Great Plains, and from time to time, bands would meet up to camp and hunt together. So they would meet up occasionally. Around once a year, sometimes more frequently, the bands would meet together as a nation, such as all the Sioux Indian bands would meet together as an entire nation, and the political organisation of the Indians reflected the need for cooperation. Generosity was expected by chiefs in the tribe, and it added to their prestige and power. Chiefs who weren't as generous lost their influence. And this picture up here shows Crazy Horse, who was a Sioux Indian chief. There's Crazy Horse there. Okay, so we've now covered all the information we needed to cover during today's video. Here are 4 quick knowledge recall questions based on all the stuff we've covered in today's video. You might wish to pause the video here and have a go at these questions, jotting down some answers yourself. If not, carry on watching and we'll just read through some answers together. Alright, so the answers. Question 1. Give a reason why teepees were perfect home for the Plains Indians. Well, they could be easily taken down and packed for transport. This made it suitable to the nomadic Plains Indians. That's one of the reasons you could have had. There are also 2 other reasons. For example, it changed with the seasons. It could be rolled up in summer to let air in, and banked with the earth in winter to keep it warm, and its conical shape meant that it could resist the strong winds that blew on the Great Plains, but I've just gone for that one. Alright, give two things that the Plains Indians use the buffalo for. Well, they use their skin for teepees and clothing, and they use buffalo dung, everybody always remembers this one, for fuel. There are loads more that you could have written as answer to question 2. If we look back on this slide, you could have written any of these really, and there are more than that, but you just need to know a few of those. Give a reason why horses enabled the Indians to survive on the Great Plains. Well, I'm just going to go for one reason here. They could move around the plains more easily, made it easier to transport belongings. Also, it became easier to defend and hunt due to the horse. And our answer to the final question, question 4, what was expected by Indian chiefs in a tribe? Well, we've just said this, that generosity was expected by those who could provide it, and those who weren't as generous lost their influence. So there are the answers to the 4 knowledge recall questions for this video today. Thank you for watching, and I do hope that you found it useful. If you have, tell your friends about the website, revise at gcsehistory.co.uk, and watch the next video in this topic, which is the beliefs of the Plains Indians. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon.